during the panel, it was said that James, Mr. Mangold, likes to do his own storytelling. But when you were editing, was there any kind of Michael Kahn-esque edits, who edited the first 4 films of Raiders, of Indiana Jones? Was there anything that you wanted to take from him and incorporate it to make it feel more like in the Indy-verse?
Right. I mean, we've all learned a lot from Michael Kahn and seeing those films, forever, and the way that those, Steven Spielberg and Michael Kahn work together, and the staging and how that, translates into the cut, and so obviously we studied all of that and immersed ourselves in it. Again, leading into this project, so we're, extremely immersed in that and informed by it, and honored to be working on something that's on the tail end of what they created. So the answer is yes, like absolutely informed by what they were doing and what Michael Kahn was doing.
Was there anything that you wanted to take from him directly that you said, okay, this is an Indiana Jones sequence cutting structure?
Right. I mean, the main thing you can take from a Michael Kahn edit is that he's cutting in the right place. So it's and that's dependent on the specific shot and the specific footage. So in a overarching way, yes, you're totally informed by that, but the scene isn't the same scene, so it's not like you're using that as a template, like I'm going to hold this shot for 3 seconds and then this for 28 frames and so forth. It's not that specific. It's more of like I said, you immerse yourself in the world of it, and you do your best to live in that world and to present something that's you can only hope to ever cut something as well as that guy's done for so many years. But that's the goal.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'd like to know, what was the most challenging sequence for you?
So there were 3 picture editors on the picture. The ones that I focused on the most, or that I spent the most time on in terms of the things that I worked on, were the tuk-tuk and the wreck dive. Both challenging in their own way. We went over a lot of that in the panel, but there was this location change with tuk-tuk, and I was involved with our visualization department, working with Jim to figure out what that sequence was going to be before they even shot it. And with the shifting, locations of that, it made it more complicated in terms of figuring it out. Or we just had to be spry in terms of adjusting to that all the time. So that was complicated, but fun. A sequence like that, you can only be, you can only have joy from working on something like that. And in this, world of Indiana Jones, I mean, it's amazing. The wreck dive, as we said in the panel as well, like underwater work is always a challenge. But again, just a really fun sequence to work out. You know what I mean? I'd say there were challenges, but nothing that took away from the the fun of working on an Indiana Jones movie.
What's the most gratifying sequence to see on the screen after you completed it, and then what was the most gratifying audience response after you've seen it with
I was only, ancillary to the, one sequence, but I really liked how the horse in the subway worked out. It felt like a fresh idea to me. It was just, and so that was supervised by a coworker, Eric Benedict, at Proof, working with Clint. And so, I was only able to see it being made at the time. I worked on that motorcycle chase when the plane's taking off, and the tuk-tuk mostly. A little bit of the railgun as well, but that just felt somehow the most cowboy heroic to me, and so I felt the most satisfied watching that and, feeling the audience reaction on that sequence.
How closely did you work with James Mangold in the Pre-Viz? Because the Pre-Viz, that's where you save, millions of dollars?
Yes. I would say Clint was definitely more in the loop with Mangold, and then he would pass the information to us, working on the sequences individually. or as our own splinter group, special teams, kind of thing. So he talks about how Mangold is kind of a film teacher. I think Clint gravitates towards that because he's also kind of similar in that way, where he, the camaraderie that comes from these Google rooms is kind of hard to quantify, but something about meeting every day and getting yourself together during a pandemic and being part of a community, even if it's a virtual community, and then delving into working on, I remember when the Temple of Doom made PG-13 a thing, and it had a big impression on me because I was still below 13 years old, so he has that film school sort of, or film teacher aspect to him as well, and sort of developed this sense of community. And I forgot what your question was. I'm sorry.
How closely did you work with James?
Very little directly.
Clint Reagan is really the interface between all of these guys and then us on on the cutting room side and with Jim. And Clint was constantly working with Jim and our other editors in pre-production. I came on as the film started shooting. So Mike McCusker and Andrew Buckland was on, I think, even before him. We're working constantly with Clint and Jim to progress the pre-viz. So there's a ton of interaction going on.
The notes came daily, and no, we never spoke directly to
Just daily, not like per hour?
Sometimes.
It was
sometimes per hour. Yeah,
that's true.
I have a question on the shooting portion of this. Was that something, was there anything you found during shooting, like a scene? Did a scene change? Did you find an element of the story while on set?
Not so much elements of the story as just very specific things within a scene. Like in the tuk-tuk scene, for example, we described how the locations changed, so there was a lot of shifting planning going on, and then once they started shooting at the second unit, which would be the stunts with the cars and the stunt drivers and all that stuff, shot before the first unit stuff with the actors, just because of the way the logistics of our shoot worked out. But so then when you get that footage back, you're cutting that and you find things with the footage. Well, the footage deviated a little bit from the plan here, so now we're making an adjustment, and then these guys are going to viz the connecting pieces that they haven't shot yet in a different way, so we're making those kinds of adjustments just to make the action more exciting. Sometimes it's something will change with the drama. That's coming from Jim, and all of those things. He's looking at that and giving feedback. So we're able to be flexible and make adjustments to kind of make the funnest sequence that we can as we're moving through that process.
I think that was a really interesting part that maybe we didn't. We talked about the second unit, or right. You were mentioning the second unit. So Dan Bradley is this stunt icon and was a second unit director, at least for the tuk-tuk.
That's right.
He, as the locations changed, yes, we did pivot, to make the stunts work in the different places. But he had such a clear idea of what he wanted, just looking at the visual, the viz. But he knew exactly how he was going to shoot, which camera, where the camera was going to be placed on the tuk-tuk, and how he was going to get the footage that he needed to really sell the stunts. I just wanted to mention his name because we actually were in meetings with him a lot, and he was, he's like an encyclopedia of action movies, he makes it happen, and he was an important part of that whole thing, yeah.
How long was the first cut for Dial of Destiny?
Not too long for a first cut, compared to a lot of others. I think we were somewhere south of 3 hours by that time. I mean, there had been some working, with the material because we didn't, the shoot, there were some starts and stops in the shoot due to pandemic, and so there was some time in between where we were able to progress the cut with Jim. Jim was able to put more attention to working with us to progress the cut, so that there was probably never the kind of full, bloated assembly that you might have with some movies where it really hasn't been worked at all,
Right.
So, I mean, I think we're somewhere between, I don't know, anyway, south of 3 hours. So it wasn't a massive, huge assembly that we started from in
James
post.
Mangold was rolling on top of things.
He's on top of things.
Was there anything that got cut that you were sad to see go?
Not really. Like I don't think there's and there wasn't like a lot of there wasn't really a lot of slippage. Like there isn't a lot of stuff that got cut. Like as far as whole scenes go, there was really very little. It was more like pieces of scenes, or like you always do. Like you get into post and you have every scene sort of has its own beginning, middle, and end, and you start to figure out which one doesn't need the full 3-act within the scene. Where do we get out the middle here, or we come in the middle there, that kind of thing. So not really like wholesale lifts or losses of scenes.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Do you want this exclusive Star Wars Outlaws poster and San Diego Comic-Con pin?
We are giving away this Outlaws video game concept art poster, complete with a poster tube, and the special pin we received with our press badges.
And there's only 3 things you need to do to enter. 1, like this video. 2, comment on this video with your Instagram handle.
So we can contact you if you win.
And 3, subscribe to our channel.
This giveaway goes through Sunday, July 30th at midnight PST, US residents only, and we will notify you via Instagram DM on July 31st. This giveaway is not affiliated in any way with YouTube.
You want another poster? We also have an Instagram giveaway for a Star Wars Outlaws key art poster. Check it out at Skywalking Pod.
Good luck, and thank you for entering. Also, thank you for clicking on this video. We hope you learned something fun.
Hey, look at those names to the left. They are part of the Skywalking Force, our Patreon.
Become a producer yourself and check out all the Disney Plus themed bonus content available depending on the level you subscribe.
Become a member of the elite Skywalking Force at skywalkingforce.com.